Well, hey guys, welcome to today's video. I want to just kind of talk about something that I think is really important for us to understand today in this video. And I got a blood good and ugly blood good Japanese maple tree here that I need to pot up. Let me see if you guys can see this a little bit better. So it has almost no leaves, some broken branches. It's kind of just dried up and it's just nasty looking. This thing's about 5 feet tall, I would say. It's got a lot of branches though, so that's good. And kind of want to show you why I'm potting this up and kind of what the deal is with it. But while I'm doing that, I want to talk a little bit about money. And can you really make money in the nursery business growing and selling plants, and especially on a small scale? And I want to kind of share with you a little bit about why I'm thinking about this today, where this idea came from, and kind of explore this topic just a little bit and help you understand why I do what I do for a living as far as growing plants goes. So let's dive in. Now, I've talked a good bit about these trees and how my fall tree sale, it went okay, but definitely did not go as planned. And these trees that I have are in these root maker pots. And a root maker pot's one of these pots. It's basically got, it's full of holes. And that helps the roots grow thicker, better roots when they're put in the ground. So that's not the point. The point is I had some trouble with these trees, and in order for me to overwinter them and to have them ready to sell next spring, they need to be potted up. Now, the way that I'm going to do this is I take a piece of PVC, because this pot is a little bit hard to get off of here, but if you just bump it, that actually works pretty good. And get that out of the way. And I'm going to take this and put it in a 5-gallon pot. Now, this is a 3 that it came out of, and you guys have heard me say before that, I really like to at least double the pot size. Ideally, I would be putting this into a 7-gallon pot right now instead of a 5-gallon pot, but this is what I have. I don't have any 7-gallon pots, and one of the reasons for that is when you put this in here, it's really tight. I mean, really tight. And there's very little room in there there's very little room in here to add potting soil. Like, there's just not much margin around the outside edge here. So what I've done is I've just mixed up some potting soil, and I've left it sitting out in the sun for several days so it's completely dry, even dusty. And I'm just filling it in that way. And when you shake it, that really dry potting soil will find its way down into those cracks. This is the best solution that I have found when you're only bumping up in size a little bit, and putting really dry potting soil seems to be the way to go. I'm just making do with what I have. That's generally what I do around here, is I try to use what I have and try to make sure that that's standing up reasonably straight. Doesn't have to be perfect, but if you can get it standing up pretty well vertical, all the better. And it seems like doing it this way works. So now we've still got, we've had some frost, but we hadn't had a killing frost, and we hadn't had, a hard freeze. And now it's 85 degrees again today, and this just needs to be soaked and watered in. And I've got probably 30 more of these I need to do, between Japanese maples, and I've got some birch trees and some snow goose cherries and some weeping willows, and there's several others, but probably got about 30 total trees that I need to do this with this dry potting soil. So, that makes a reasonably good tree for next spring, and these will overwinter just fine. Should have very minimal losses with that. And while I'm working on that, I want to just talk a little bit with you today about money and trees, small plants, and the nursery business. So let's change the topic from maple trees to money. Now, if you guys have watched our channel for any length of time, y'all know that we grow and sell all sorts of landscape plants, from perennials, annuals, shrubs, trees, all sorts of things. And what I really want to look at is some of these plants. Like, for example, here's a little carex grass. This is called a carex grass. It's called frosted curls, and it's just a nice little plant. This is in a little 2-quart pot, and it reminds me of one of those little troll dolls. I used to see them with like the neon green hair or whatever. But it's a really nice little grass, and I sell these for about $6 each. Small pot, small plant, $6. People are glad to pay that, and I'm glad to get it. And then we've got just one of our standard perennials here. This is a a caramel coral bells, and this is a real common plant. This one's a little small, but it's late October now, and the plants I'm showing you now are for next year. These are not going to sell this year, but these will all overwinter just fine. Don't have any trouble at all with that. So just a beautiful, beautiful little plant here, and this will be close to twice the size when it flushes out next spring, and just a really nice plant. This is kind of a different category of plant here, but this is an elderberry, and you know, people are buying these to make jellies with, and you know, to make like cough syrup type stuff with, and all sorts of things for the homesteader type crowd, the gardeners. We do elderberries, and just some of our price points on these. Like I said, we sell this one for about $6 each. I sell these coral bells for about $8 each. And these elderberries, I do about $10 each on them. We sell a lot of all of these every year. What I think is important to mention is, you know, we were on Nursery U the other day on our nursery mentoring group, and somebody asked the question. They said, what do you think some of the misconceptions or misunderstandings are about small nurseries, like whether it's a backyard nursery, a farmer's market type nursery, just any kind of small nursery? What do you think some of the misconceptions are? And somebody commented on there is that you can't make money selling small plants. And I thought that was a great point to be made, and I thought that I'd make a video about this and ask you, and I think this, I want us to think about this in terms of investing. I think of my plants as an investment. I'm putting money and time into it, and I expect to get a return on that. So let's look at this in terms of investing. Now I got a couple of other perennials here, and we do lots and lots and lots of perennials, whether we do them from plugs that we buy in, from division, from seed, from cuttings, or from any other way that we might have perennials. Just these really pretty, colorful plants for spring and summer. This one's a blanket flower here. It's called, it's a Mesa Red blanket flower, and this one is a bubblegum purple Veronica. Just super, super pretty little plants. You can see that. This is just one of my favorite plants. These things, these spikes get really tall and just beautiful, thick. This will be nice, really nice next spring. And it's worth mentioning that I paid $1, $1.20 each for these plugs. Just for round number sake, let's just say $1. It's a little more than that, but we'll just say $1. And then we sell these for about $8 each. Now, timing is really important on these. You want to get these at the right time of year based on when you forecast selling them. So if I'm trying to sell these in the fall, I need to think, okay, I need to get them in time to grow them out and to be nice in this size for fall sales. I missed the timing on these by just a little bit for fall sales this year. Some of them were ready, maybe a third of them were ready, and we sold a bunch of them, but if I'd have gotten the timing a little bit better, I could have sold more. But the point that I'm making is that we bought these for about $1 a piece, and I sell them for about $8 a piece. Now, you're always going to have some die, you're going to have some that are ugly, so we don't want to say I bought them for 1, sold them for 8, and made 8 times my money. So let's just kind of back that off a little bit, just to count for whatever ones don't sell for whatever reason. And let's say that I bought them for $1 and I sold them for $6. So that's a 6x return on your investment. So I think it's worth mentioning that, let's hang on to that thought for a second. I think it's worth mentioning that like the long-term average in something like, say, the stock market or even in real estate investing is something like 10%. So let's say that you invested $1,000 into an index fund in the stock market, and you got an average rate of return of 10 years every year. And we know that's not how it works. You don't get 10%, 10%, 10%. That's not how it works. But we're just talking numbers. I'm just doing this for an example. If you put $1,000 in the stock market and you got a 10% rate of return, it's going to take you 8 years to double that money, and for that 1,000 to become 2,000. And I realize that dealing with plants isn't a passive investment. There's work involved. You got to put money, you got to put water in it, fertilizer, etc. And by the time you water these, put them in a pot, fertilize them, and put potting soil in there, I've got about $1.50 in this, say. So just follow along with my numbers. And the thing about this that's so impressive to me, just kind of thinking about how the numbers actually work, is let's say that I buy in Veronica plugs, and I mean they're this big, and I buy them in and get them March the 15th. And again, I'm just using the date as an example. That might work in my zone where I live. Let's say that I bought these on March the 15th as little plugs. And then by May the 1st to May the 15th, so let's say 6 to 8 weeks, these are ready to sell. So remember, I paid $1 for them, a little more, just using the example. But then I sold them for $8. we'll just say 6 as an overall average. So I paid $1, sold them for $6, and in, let's say 8 weeks, or let's say 10 weeks, I 6 or 7x the money in 6 to 10 weeks. Guys, it's an incredible business to be in, the plant business, and so many people don't have tens of thousands of dollars to invest in the stock market or buying rental properties and real estate and all that, and they may not think there's any way to invest meaningfully for them. But one of the things that I love about the plant business is I look at this as investing, because you put money in, you put some effort in, and then you can expect to reap a return on that investment. And the thing that's so amazing about plants is, instead of doubling your money in 8 years, how about you can 6x your money in 2 months? And you can do that over and over and over again with many, many, many different kinds of plants. And this is just an example with the perennials that we do, like with this blanket flower I just mentioned, that it works really, really, really well with this type of plant. And you can do this with all kinds of plants. I'm just showing you this again as a simple example with these beautiful perennials that sell like crazy in the spring. And let's look at another example of a plant that we grow a ton of. Now this is one ugly plant right here. This is a silver dollar hydrangea. But it's only going to be an ugly plant until next year. Again, here it is, end of October. Over winter, we'll prune these here, here, and here. And next spring, we'll have these potted up into bigger pots, and they will flush out. They'll be nice and big, and we'll be ready to sell these by, May or so for $10 each. Now, here's the thing. We're not talking about one plant. We're talking about hundreds of these, maybe closer to 1,000 hydrangeas that we'll have next year. And on these, we propagate these ourselves, and we don't have any money into them other than whatever time and, pot, fertilizer, etc. So let's say we got 50 cents in this thing after we water it for a year and, year and a half, however long it is. But you understand what I'm saying. We didn't purchase these in at all. We propagate a lot of plants. And when you start talking about doing your own propagation, the time span that it takes to get the return on your investment is longer, but it's going to be greater. So let's just say that we have $1 in this plant, maybe. We have $1 into this plant. Well, I'm going to sell it for 10, and these things sell like crazy. So we're going to 10x an investment in a matter of about 1.5 years. Now, you can look at that and think, I'd rather do perennials, I'd rather do hydrangeas, I'd rather propagate or not propagate. But we do a lot of plants a lot of different ways. The example that I started with the blood-good Japanese maple tree, we just bought that in at the size that it was. And we only about double our money on those, or a little bit better on those, and I'd rather do it quickly. I'd rather them not have problems and not have to overwinter them at all. But we'll get more for them next spring. So that being said, there's a lot of different ways to do investing in plants. And if we look at it as investing and not just as a job or as work, which it is, as I mentioned, I realize it's not passive. It does involve work, but it doesn't involve hours and hours and hours of work every day to have a small nursery, but it does involve consistent work. So when it comes to you increasing your worth and what you have, and thinking of creative ways that you might use to build your savings or build your income, if you're leery of the stock market, if you're leery of other more traditional types of investments, man, let me encourage you to look into plant investing, because they're easy to grow. A whole lot of them are easy to propagate. They're easy to sell, and you can be running a business growing and selling plants as somewhat of a professional plant investor, if you want to call it that. You can be doing that and be up and running on that in just almost no time. And that's what we do here in our nursery and on our YouTube channel. We teach people all the ins and outs and the ups and downs and all the little brass tacks about how to do this exact thing. So maybe investing in plants is something that you need to consider to increase your income and to increase your savings. Now, part of the beauty of growing plants and having a nursery and it can be very seasonal. It can be as seasonal as you want it to be. You can just do it in the spring if you want to just do it in the spring. You can just do it in the fall. You can learn how to propagate plants, and you can learn how to grow and buy and sell your plants over winter. I mean, there's different ways to do it. You can turn it into an all-year thing like we do here at our nursery, and it's also scalable. You can do this on any scale. The very first time I ever tried to sell any plants. I think I had 20 plants to sell. I had a plant sale, like a yard sale in my driveway. I think we had 20 plants, something like that. I don't remember exactly, and it doesn't matter. But the point is, you can sell a few plants, grow a few plants, sell a few plants, or you can do tens of thousands of plants or more. And it really all just depends on your aptitude, on your need, what you're capable of doing, what you want to do, what kind of space you have to work with, and how invested in it you actually want it to be. But the more invested in it you are, the more return you're going to get, obviously, because plants rapidly increase in value like nothing else that I know of, at least that just normal people can do without any special skills or, any special training or special education. Any knucklehead can come out here and do what I do. And I suspect that there's a lot of knuckleheads watching this who are just like me, who would love to find a way to make some extra money, to start a second job, a side hustle, or maybe even a full-time nursery gig, whatever it might be. And you just don't know how to get started. You don't know if it's worth it. You're not sure if the investment that you need to make up front is ever going to pay for itself or return anything for you. And those are all great questions to ask. And that's what we try to do here, is help people work through some of those issues. So back to where we originally started was with the question of, can a small nursery really make any money? It absolutely can make money, and it can make money relatively easy, and it can make money relatively quickly. I'm not promising anybody gets rich doing this, but who's rich anyway? I mean, I'm not striving to be rich. Chances are you're not striving to be rich. Exactly how you define that, I don't know. But everybody would like to have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more mobility, a little bit more opportunity. And those are some of the things that having a little bit more money brings. And we shouldn't be afraid to talk about that or ashamed to admit that making money is a good thing to do. So we don't want to live for it. We don't want to worship it, but it is a necessary part of life. So all of that being said, maybe plants is something that you should consider for going forward. So guys, that's it for today's video. I got Japanese maples to pot. I got other chores to do today, but I wanted to just kind of drop in and just share something with you that was on my mind, and I thought it might be worth hearing today. So guys, as always, I appreciate y'all watching. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all on the next one.